Hello and welcome once again to Stop the Press. I'm Rob Chadwick and I'm a lecturer in journalism at Exeter College. I'm here with Nick Copson, who was ex-head of marketing for 20 plus years for a range of national news media outlets, and Bill Martin, who was 35 years in regional press, 20 as an editor for both morning and evening titles. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Robert.
Good afternoon, William.
How are you doing today? Anything interesting going on in lives?
Well, not particularly in mine, and I wouldn't say that interesting, but it's winter, isn't it? It's raining.
Oh, it was hot. It's hot. Just so everyone knows, bit of context, it is December the 1st, and it is hammering down. It hammered down all day, basically. I've sat inside and just sort of watched television.
Well, I managed to get across town to join this podcast with you guys in a record 14 minutes, and I was studiously following the speed limit, so there's barely any traffic on the road. Presumably everyone's thinking I'm staying inside today.
That's unusual.
I know.
Storm warning.
Yeah,
Normally in these conditions, people drive like idiots, and it takes you hours to get anywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay, so we have a fantastic episode for you today. We are going to do our review of the year, and what we've done is we've listened back to the previous episode that we did back in January to say, what predictions did we make? And we're going to have a look at whether we were right. We weren't. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. And then we're going to kind of...
Were we right about anything?
I don't know. Let's go through
No,
it
I
as we go along.
wasn't. I checked. I wasn't.
Yeah, I don't think we really were, no. And then we're going to kind of have a look at what the biggest stories of the year were and the winners and losers of the year. And hopefully it will be fun for all to listen to. So, guys, let's start with predictions of the year. Nick started with Trump will de-globalise the world with specific reference to tariffs. And we talked about him suggesting Canada as the 51st state and Greenland being taken over from Denmark. It's amazing how things change.
Wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sort of played out a little bit. It obviously wasn't as harsh and as stark as you described, or even I described on the previous episode. I mean, he did what he said he'd do, and he crudely went into these tariffs, with a massive publicity drive behind it, mostly on X, of course, at first. And it did destabilise the economy, I think, temporarily, and most things do destabilise things temporarily. But it swiftly came back, and that was sort of balanced really by the massive growth in AI, which ultimately had a counter effect on what Trump was doing. The growth in AI and chip production countered that really. From an American business point of view, they struggled. And there's lots of small businesses that did struggle because of it. In the US, because they were obviously importing goods that then had, tariffs on this and so on. So it had a negative effect. And Canada is still in big trouble because of it. And they haven't really got to the bottom of that one yet.
But to dig you out of a hole, Nicholas, because you were clearly wrong in all your predictions, is that, when you look back at the year, Donald Trump has been the heartbeat of the news agenda globally.
He has, yes.
Whatever he says, or whatever even one of his, frankly, quite odd sidekicks say or do in various meetings all over the country, have dominated the news agenda, haven't they?
Yeah.
Both here in the UK and I think more so in other countries. And it's become very familiar now, isn't it? Trump will say something outrageous, follow it up by either changing his mind or doing half of what he said he would do. In a way, it's been quite effective for him, isn't it?
Well, it's been immensely effective. I mean, I admire the man more and more by the day. Really, he's a force of nature in how he goes about things, and to me, he's changing, albeit perhaps not the right way, how politics is often done on a global scale. I'm not saying it's the right way to go about it, but he's ultimately changing.
I think
the narrative of how things could be done.
I think that's right, but I mean, he's. It's interesting his relationship with the media, at all levels, isn't it? He's got, he's taken on. He's suing the BBC now. He's already
got enemies everywhere.
Dispute with the New York Times.
Yeah.
He has got enemies everywhere in the media, apart from his own. proving what we spoke about last year, isn't it? That, you can become your sort of your own one-man media organisation now, which he's done. It's his appetite for power and money is relentless, isn't it? And it's in a way, it's admirable, isn't it?
It's also worrying. Things like the Jimmy Kimmel thing, where he ended up getting Kimmel taken off air for a few days because of basically not liking what he was saying about him and things. It is worrying. For me, it is kind of the edge of anti-democracy stuff. And I do worry about the move within the world. And actually, we say the deglobalization thing didn't happen, but there is definitely a movement right across the world towards non-democracy. Basically, the polls are saying that people would rather have someone who is properly in charge making proper decisions rather than democracy right across the world, including in the UK in some polls.
Yeah.
So actually that deglobalization thing is kind of happening a little bit. People are saying look after ourselves and not the outside world and stuff, especially in this country again. I see the backlash against migration as part of that deglobalization agenda. So I don't think Nick was entirely wrong with that.
No, and that's what I mean. He's changing the shape of politics. And it can't be a good thing, but ultimately it's happening. And it's not bad for a man who has got barely any political,
ideology.
Ideology.
Yeah, even ideology.
Exactly. So, I can look at it and just admire the man for all the reasons that I shouldn't really admire him. I do. Right? I do.
For being effective.
For being a leader. He is fundamentally a leader. Right?
Yeah. And
not just in job title, because he obviously has a leadership job title, the biggest in the world. But he is leading how people are thinking.
And he's doing it through the press. He's basically ignoring whatever's said about him in the press, and journalists don't matter to him, and he'll basically shun them entirely from press conferences. And
no, he'll tell them to shh.
He will.
Shush, piggy.
Oh, my goodness. Shush, piggy. That is a reference, just in case anyone didn't see it, to about a couple of weeks ago on Air Force One. He said someone was trying to ask him a question and he just said, shush, piggy, to the woman. It was a horrendous thing to do. He's just a really objectionable bloke, isn't he? It's as simple as that.
Well, Nick's a big fan.
And he is. Well, that's why Nick likes him, isn't it?
Nick is soon to be signing up for reform.
Yes.
I know. I'm a fan for all the reasons that I shouldn't be. But I look at him and go, wow, he's achieved quite a lot, to be honest. And I admire any person, who gets anything done.
Has he achieved a lot? What has he achieved?
Well, personally, he's achieved a lot, hasn't he?
He's increased his wealth.
He's increased his wealth. He's become president of the United States twice.
I mean, that's remarkable for a start.
But what's he done as president of the United States?
Well, I'm not going to go into his achievements or non-achievements, basically. But from what he's a man who's managed to do things without any of the normal bureaucracy that follows this sort of role. Right? He just ploughed ahead and created his own pathway, and I feel that deserves a bit of a acknowledgement, really. That it's possible to get things done. In the corridors of power. The long-standing legacy, I don't know, will have to be written, won't it? And no doubt when he does go, the knives will be out very, very fast from whoever, any enemies he's made over the years, most of them in the media, of course, the knives will be out fast. So his legacy, I don't know, will be a car crash, I suspect. But you're right, Bill. Being president twice. For a man who was, let's be honest, and a TV celebrity, really, more than a businessman.
Well, a property developer.
I know, but he became more of a TV celebrity, didn't he? That's unbelievable achievements, really.
So
he was on my list of one of the big stories of the year.
Yeah, well,
on my list of two.
So I think we're probably talking about that as we go along. He's definitely one of the big stories of the year, isn't he? With all of the stuff. Basically, it's saturating the news coverage, isn't it? Flooding the news coverage. And basically, they've done it incredibly well.
He still hasn't stopped the war in Ukraine, though.
No. Day one, he'd have been doing that.
24 hours.
Yeah, 24 hours. It turns out it's a bit more difficult. to stop a war.
Funny that.
Bit more difficult than just saying just stop.
Yeah. Or just doing a deal, which is renowned for.
He keeps
I'll
trying,
do a deal.
Keeps trying to just get Ukraine to capitulate, and they keep on saying, "Well, no, we're not going to do that. Even if you don't fund us, we're not going to do that." And quite rightly so, you know. I don't know. He's intolerable as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and we're still waiting. Now that the Epstein files have been released or half released or whatever state of release they're in, we're still waiting for that smoking gun, aren't we? Which makes you beginning to think maybe there's nothing there with regards to Trump.
If I was going to predict anything for next year, it would certainly be that the Epstein files will come to not much in terms of Trump. Let's put it that way.
That would be a shame.
There won't be anything that really, really sort of puts him in the frame.
Yeah. I mean,
it will have been burnt by now, won't it?
Well, so, yeah. If there was anything there at all.
If there was.
Yeah, if there was anything.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not he's going to be listening to our little old show. We talked about social media usurping traditional media and how that polarizes. And I think probably we were right that social media is getting more and more prevalent. And that traditional media is definitely kind of on the back foot, not least because of the last couple of weeks with the BBC and what they've been going through in terms of censorship and stuff.
Yeah, I think what we were probably right about, is the fragmentation of the media world has made those major brands, which people of our age are very familiar with, less and less relevant in the lives of people who in other age groups in other countries from us. It's extraordinary now, the sort of level of content being published across platforms that certainly I never use. I doubt you do too. But they've become the big players in the global media world. I think what's quite remarkable. I mean, one of my predictions was that we'd see the end of some major traditional news brand, wasn't it? But to be honest, they're being remarkably resilient despite the forces that are stacked against them. So they're all still there, and we haven't seen any real biggies go, with the exception of MTV, which is going to be closed at the end of the year.
Yes, very sad.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting, isn't it? That actually they do seem to just be hanging in there. It feels to me like it's the older generation that are making them hang in there. It's like I don't know anyone else who buys a physical newspaper than me most of the time, really, nowadays.
I agree with you, but I would argue that there's also the potential that they'll hang in there for longer than anyone could ever predict. And they already have done, let's be honest, for the last 15 years. But it could be even longer because with the rise of AI-generated content, I think the public, we as consumers, will just naturally start to seek out more and more truth, right? And literally pull away from anything that appears to be not from a trusted source. And that will allow trusted news, obviously, to have even greater credibility potentially in the future. So,
yeah, I think the strength of those brands, it just shows, doesn't it? How strong those brands are, and how people keep gravitating back towards for that search for trusted news or information. Not necessarily in a paper form now, is it?
Yeah.
Some of them have handled that transformation into a digital business primarily really well.
Yes.
The Times been a great example.
Yeah.
The finance of digital publishing, I think, continues to be an issue for many publishers, or certainly our old governors.
I can't see...
There's still, print revenue, still, I think, 70-75% of all Reach's revenues. Mm-hmm. So they're still looking for answers in their digital publishing model, how to monetize that giant audience they've got.
Yeah. Well, I can't see why, there's something really pleasurable about sitting down on a Sunday and reading an actual paper. And I don't see the same pleasure in getting out a laptop and scrolling through stories and stuff.
There isn't.
It's not the same thing at all.
There isn't.
And you can get a much cheaper Sunday Times subscription. I could get it for a lot cheaper, but I'd much rather have that physical paper in my hand. Funnily enough, Nick,
but that is generational, isn't it? You're never going to convince my children or even a generation above them or Nick's children that that's a worthwhile purchase or even a worthwhile use of their time.
So that one of them going bust has got to roll over for next year, because sooner or later it's going to happen if that's the case, because those people who do buy the papers are going to start dying off.
Yeah, but then again, are they? If you look at in the regions, which is the area that Nick and I know best, you can see now within Reach, they're beginning to experiment now with paid subscription on certain content. So there's going to be a move away from free content on, for example, the Manchester Evening News. I think they're doing it this week. It's the first time they've done it. Which is for me is a really positive thing. Finally, I think it's sort of clicking that people will be prepared to pay for decent content, and they're going to have to get it anymore. To get decent content anymore. So I think that might save a lot of those brands. Whether that's actually in newsprint form is very unlikely, I would have thought. But
funnily enough, Nick predicted last year that people will seek out better quality news as a reaction to AI, and that there will be a verification process where AI publishers need to prove the source and stuff. So we're almost saying, actually it's not happened yet, but we are sure it will happen.
No, it's happening.
It's happening.
It's 100% happening.
Yeah.
And you can see, where people, as I told you guys last week, even I've started listening to podcasts now and that sort of thing, and it's a really good way of consuming reliable information and analysis, isn't it? And,
I think so.
I'm a bit late to the party, but that's just one of the these sort of trusted areas that people are going to start going to now.
I think it's very easy to predict. I think we all do that, and everything we see so far has shown us this is the way that every generation will get shorter attention spans, and the accessibility of the content will become easier and easier to consume, and so on. That's a trend that I can't see changing, but. It's interesting how I'm already seeing very loose parallels of how that Generation Alpha and Generation Z, of course, as well, but certainly the newer generations, they're already almost there's almost a backlash a little bit I can see starting to happen around modern media, right? So a loose parallel here is my own children, certainly my eldest, who is already sick and tired of streaming music on his phone or his whatever he's listening to, his Alexa, and he's seeking out, a physical copy of the music, and he wants to listen to an album. So one of his presents this year that I'm getting him is one of his favourite artists on a 12-inch vinyl.
Oh, nice!
And he because he wants to feel like he owns something, and he wants to listen to the songs in sequence, right? And that's from a 10-year-old child who's already gone, I can't deal with all this digital stuff. I want something that's real. I'm not. That's a very rubbish parallel to the principle of a printed newspaper.
It's not a mass sample.
No, but no, it's certainly not. But there could be a scenario in the future where that generation go, I want real news from trusted sources, and I want it in a medium format that feels like I can trust it. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I can sort of imagine that. Whether it's enough to sustain the news industry is another long shot. But I could see a backlash.
Take no notice of Bill, Nick. I think one person, case proven.
By the way,
we'll say that's fine.
By the way, that's not a prediction for our next episode. By the way.
Who needs any more than one person? Another thing that Bill predicted last year was that local papers will serve a wider area. And county-wide and beyond, basically, do you think that's happened? Do you think Reach is now actually, so Plymouth Live has lots of national stories on it, and it's clickbaity type stories. They take clickbait from all over the country and put it into their Plymouth Live feed, don't they?
Clickbait.
I absolutely can.
Content that the audience is interested in, Robert.
Yeah. So I think you're probably right that started happening. But then also, local papers are actually becoming even more local in another way. You were talking about a new Tavistock paper recently that's just launched and stuff, weren't you?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily local papers. It's local content, isn't it? Which I think increasingly, there's two trends you can see. I think in the major brands, you are getting regionalisation in terms of content production, And I think in smaller communities, you can see little. There's just one started this year in Plymouth, isn't there? Plymouth Plus, which I think is a little one-man band publisher starting a news service. And you can see them cropping up all over the West Country. There's a couple of printed products. There's one on Dartmoor, which I think is very popular now. And it's absolutely grassroots content, sort of what time do the street lights come on, that sort of stuff, over 60s meetings date, that sort of stuff.
I got a Compton version through the post the other day.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's almost like the return to the old days of the free papers and stuff.
And there may be, I think, in certain communities that won't always be printed. Yeah. But I think there's always going to be a need in communities for that sort of information to be spread. And sometimes the digital format is not the most effective.
Well, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. One last prediction that we talked about, and then we'll get on to the winners and losers of the year, is I said that Pep Guardiola would leave Manchester City and be replaced by Iraola from Bournemouth. So
wrong.
So there you go.
Wrong.
I mean, I still think he's not very happy, but maybe he's just going to hang in there forever.
It was pretty close, Rob. To be fair, it could have happened, and I wonder if in the background it was maybe discussed. Yeah. But
yeah, wrong again.
Yeah.
So, what was the biggest news stories of the year? We've touched on Trump. What else were the biggest news stories of the year, guys?
Andrew Windsor,
yeah. Basically, the collapse of the royal family, possibly.
Well, yeah, maybe not. I mean, that's been, Epstein and Windsor have dominated, haven't they? Ukraine, and I think at home, the sort of long-running theme of the year has been our underperforming government. And it's seemingly sort of crisis to crisis to crisis at number 10 in the government. Whether that's Angela Rayner or whoever else. We've just had the latest budget, haven't we? Which has gone very well with Labour MPs, I think, and that's about it.
It was going to be this, and then it was going to be that, and then it was going to be that, and then it was going to be that, and then suddenly it's this. And everyone's not the markets are quite happy, and the backbenchers are quite happy, but it just feels like it was chaotic getting there. So even something that they're good at, that's come out, that's been reasonable, which a bigger buffer is probably a good thing in the nation's finances. But even getting to that point has just come across as being inept. Just a bunch of inept people making terrible decisions and trying to desperately please everybody.
It's odd, isn't it, that the leak of the budget, an hour before the budget was delivered, after 3 weeks of leaks about the budget, it's amazing that it became such a big story. But there's clearly been a sort of major malfunction in terms of however the OBR publishes something like that. But it just came across as so farcical, didn't it? It almost felt like Boris was in charge again.
Yeah.
With that going off. But, whether it made a great deal of difference or anything.
It made Kemi Badenoch seem relatively sane.
I know.
Which, you're going some, aren't you?
I was just going to say that is my sort of story of the year, just how inept politicians have become. I don't know if it's because I'm older and, a tiny bit wiser than I was, not much, by the way, but a tiny bit wiser than I was when I was 20. And I'm fundamentally older than many of the MPs and the cabinet now, right? I don't know if that's because I'm older, but I just look at the politicians these days and just think, oh my God, these are nowhere near the calibre of what they were in the 80s and 90s, or noughties certainly. I just look at them, I can't see a credible leader, politician, diplomat, business person amongst any of them, to be honest. That has been the stark highlight, or low light, should I say, of my year, I think.
I'd agree. There's no one who sort of comes shining through as being, that person would be great. Shabana Mahmood, I think if it wasn't for the backbenchers, would probably have a chance of being pretty credible. She seems to be on it and understand that things need to get done, and sometimes you're going to make some people happy and sometimes you're not. But other than that, I can't really see anyone out there much.
No, but you can see why the people are yearning for some sort of Trump-like character, aren't they?
Yeah.
Someone who will come and sort of cut through the...
Yeah, that's why Zach Polanski is coming through loud and clear, and that's why Farage has done for a couple of years, isn't it? Well, longer now for Farage.
Yeah, suddenly I'm feeling rather sad.
But it is looking very much like we're going to go down that sort of populist route. You know, Zach Polanski is really polling well, isn't he? I every time he opens his mouth, I get angry, basically. He just talks absolute nonsense, but he seems to be cutting through, certainly with the younger people.
Well, I don't know if this is a dumbing down of our population or even world population, I'm not sure, but I think people are just sick of politics. They just want somebody or something to just get things done. And, you know, we made the point earlier about Trump. You know, whether you see what he's done as an achievement or not, personally, of course it's an achievement, but, you know, in terms of his political achievements, probably less so. But he drives the agenda constantly. And he forces people to sit up and take notice, whether they like what he's saying or not.
And he controls the agenda as well.
Yeah.
You know, definitely. So, you know, someone like Zach Polanski is definitely trying to do the same. You know, I don't know whether the media is quite as controllable in England as it is out there. And I'm sure that Farage is trying to do the same. Farage is worrying. You know, he's saying he'll close down the BBC if he gets in power and stuff. It is all very worrying that Farage is going down that sort of anti-democratic route as well. And people seem to be responding to it. Going back to what we said earlier, it does feel like people are responding to, let's not have democracy anymore. It hasn't worked. Well, it has worked. You know, people be careful what you wish for is my opinion on that. I don't know about you.
No, I agree completely. But, you know, Nick was right, is that people have become sick of politics.
Yeah.
And that's because I think we've been subjected to, well, ever since Brexit, really, such terrible politics, when nobody really believes anything that politicians say now. You know, we could all go back to the sort of farcical interviews we've seen journalists carry out with, you know, Laura Kusenberg, with whoever on a Sunday morning, things like that. And you're kind of like,
yeah.
One, they never answer a question. I think Nick's right. People are just heartily fed up with it, and they're longing for someone to come along and say, right, this is what we're going to do. I mean, that was Starmer's big thing, wasn't it? In the run up to his incredible general election victory. Now, when you look back, you know, he was going to be the safe and steady. You know, he was definitely not going to be the person having parties in Number 10. He was going to bring some sensible policy to the economy, etc., etc. All of that seems to have gone out the window very quickly. And again, you know, it's that lack of leadership. You know, they seem to sort of test policies by leaking them and then go, oh, no, someone said that's not a good idea, so let's not do it.
So,
you know, even the income tax rise, you know, you probably could have got away with that now, I think. You
should have just done it.
You could have got away with putting up income tax and said, look, the economy's in such a state, we've got to do this. Possibly they would have got away with it.
Apparently it didn't poll well.
Well, I'm sure it didn't.
But they're 4 years from a general election. Just do it.
I'm sure
Oh,
they did.
God, they do my head in. So are we going to say that Starmer is one of the big losers of the year? Or is he a winner because he's managed to hang on to power, because he could have easily been out by now?
Well, it's a year of two halves, I think, for Starmer. I think he started off the year as still, you know, riding away from the previous year's election, but it's, you know, since May onwards, it's got progressively worse for him. And I'm amazed he's still in power, to be honest.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how the new year. I haven't thought about that as what could happen next year to him, but
I think it's because he's never here, so nobody can.
Never hear Keir. So, you know, he's not handled the press well. He's not handled his party well. He's not handled politics well. So you'd probably say a loser. But if it wasn't for the fact he's still there as Prime Minister, he's probably just about hung in there. We won't call him a winner, but maybe a...
No, he's a loser. Come on.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know, having gone from that, what was the majority? 168?
Something like that,
You know,
isn't
he's
it? And he can't get anything through.
No, he's effectively powerless. He seems.
It's unbelievable with a majority that size.
Feels like a zombie PM. to me.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? So, and the problem for Labour is that the backbenchers don't, you know, they'll put this ultra-left agenda in play, and that'll just decimate Labour. in the next election because they won't be able to go far enough. So the actual ultra-left will vote for a Green Party. And most people aren't ultra-left. You know, most of the places where they would normally get in aren't ultra-left. You're not going to go up to Burnley and Blackburn and find a lot of ultra-left people.
No, but we've got our own ultra-left party now, haven't we, called Your Party. Had their first conference yesterday.
Yeah.
So surely Jeremy Corbyn's got to go down as one of this year's losers as well, because he starts his own party, who've now agreed he can't be the leader.
I think it's just one of the most funny things in the world, Your Party. It's just brilliant, isn't it? I really enjoy hearing about it. I listen to the Private Eye podcast, and they are all over it. It's so funny. It's like the Judean People's Fund, isn't it?
Very similar. Yeah. Very similar.
And
so he was on my list of losers.
He was, Corbyn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else is a loser this year then?
Keir Starmer. So, apart from that.
What about you, Nick?
Well, Bill's already mentioned it. Andrew Windsor, massively. His reputation was already non-existent, or at least in the toilet. It's been flushed right away now. There's no comeback for him.
I think I'd broaden that to the royal family generally. I think that it's eroded respect to the royal family as a result.
Possibly. I think that William will allow that to come back. So I don't see that as long-term damage in the way. But Andrew is just, he's gone. He's gone, and I don't know how I don't know how the royal family or Charles now removes him from the scene, other than sort of ostracise him to Iceland or Greenland or something. I don't know. But he's the biggest loser there, I think, of the year. And the only one I mention is from obviously the recent budget. Just Britain's growth, it feels like, has lost out massively. I'm an armchair capitalist, I think, at heart, and I'm always seeking where our prosperity will come from, and at the moment I just can't see it. That's not my own personal bank accounts. I'm talking about Britain as an economic power. I just think I can't see the growth, and that is a big loss, I think, for the nation.
In fairness, I was listening to an economics show the other day, and they were saying that even America's growth is almost entirely driven by the AI boom and
yes,
tech.
It is, yeah.
Tech. That if you take that out of it, they haven't really got any growth either. And that actually, if you go around the world, hardly anyone's got any growth at all, because basically there isn't any growth left to do. But there you go. So who's the winners this year then?
That's a re-gearing of the world economy, isn't it? And great if growth's in AI. Well, surely that would have been the visionary budget to announce last weekend.
Investment in AI and tech.
Yeah, we're going to make Britain a global.
It would, but it didn't.
Fulcrum of AI, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Except we've got a socialist government who don't know how to do that.
No. And are worried about the environmental impact of it as well.
Yes, yeah.
Because if you're going to be a big server area, you're going to burn up a lot of fuel. And of course, we're not allowed to use the fuel that we've actually got, which is mad. Who are the big winners of the year, do you think? Or did we not think about winners? Oh, sorry.
There's not been many, has there? I would say that if I were talking about AI, I would say that Sam Altman, the boss of OpenAI, and anybody in that sort of sphere has been a massive winner. I read this morning, which I knew already, but I've got the stats here. NVIDIA, which is now the world's biggest chip maker, not just the world's biggest chip maker, sorry, the world's biggest company now.
Yes.
4.53 trillion capitalization. They are the big winners so far this year. And anybody connected to it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Are we on the cusp of an AI bubble is the big question, isn't it? Are we about to get a big crash?
Possibly.
That's the problem, isn't it?
I don't know how big, but...
Well, in valuation, but not in how it's used. It's going to...
But a valuation crash would affect the world economy as well, wouldn't it?
It would be, it'd be seismic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is a bit worrying.
Yeah, I think in media terms, Lord Rothermere is going to emerge as one of the big winners of the year, because I think his deal to buy the Telegraph is going to be approved, and presumably that if that goes through mergers and monopolies, he will then own the Mail and the Telegraph. That's powerful.
Telegraph are the big winners of the year, actually, for their investigation into the BBC.
Yeah,
I think they've come out of that pretty well.
I would agree with that. Yeah, they've come out of it very well.
Yeah, it shows, their journalists are on it and kind of looking into things and doing a good job, basically, doesn't it?
And you can go all the way back to the MP's expenses scandal, which was also
Yeah.
the Telegraph, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just to show, and that's why, the established brands still maintain their sort of position, their clout, because they can still roll out that sort of hard-hitting investigative series.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you go. That's our allotted time for our review of the year. It was kind of a review of the year and a little bit of rambling and stuff like that, but I think we absolutely nailed it.
No comment.
Okay, thanks for listening. We'll be back soon in the new year for what's going to happen next year episode. Okay, bye for now.
Bye for now.
Goodbye.